the delay. We'll begin tonight's meeting with the invocation from Reverend Sarah Minton from St. Mary's Episcopal Church in Green Cove Springs.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Minton. I am the priest at St. Mary's Episcopal Church, and I just have to say, being someone who grew up here in Clay County, went to Montclair Elementary, Lakeside Middle, and a graduate from Orange Park High, what a sweet privilege it is to open us up in prayer tonight. Let us pray. God, our teacher, who helps us understand the world around us, we celebrate the beginning of this school year and ask for your blessing upon the children, the educators, this school board, and all those who support this education system. You are the source of all wisdom and understanding. We ask you to be present with us, those who have gathered here to discuss the matters at hand at this meeting. We ask you to bless all who learn and bless those who guide them. Bless those who teach and counsel and care. May they remember you walk beside them through all of their days. You, O Lord, are here. We thank that you provide endless possibilities of what this new school year might bring, of what will be learned, and who we might become. God, our friend, who is full of wonder, fill all the educators, support staff, administrators, board members, parents, caregivers, leaders, and students with hope, and bless their hands, their hearts, and their minds. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. I will now call to order the regular school board meeting of August 3rd, 2023. Welcome, citizens of Clay County. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend tonight's school board meeting. This meeting is our opportunity as your representatives to collaborate openly and make decisions that will decide the future direction of our public schools and the education of our children here in Clay County. If you wish to address the board on an agenda item, there will be an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Please fill out a card located at the side entry door indicating the specific item number or topic you wish to speak about and turn it in promptly to one of our officers. If you have items that you would like to present to the school board or superintendent, please hand them to an officer who will distribute them accordingly. No additional cards will be accepted once the board moves to the public comment section under presentations from the audience. Your participation is always welcomed and appreciated. We'll begin tonight with recognitions and awards. We'll be recognizing the national winners of Career and Technical Student Organization. Ms. Kelly Mosley, the Supervisor of Career and Tech Ed, will be joining us for that presentation.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here. You will recognize some of these students that we recognized a few months back whenever they were state award winners. And so it's a privilege to be here. We are excited about our students that competed at the national level and all of the things that they did this summer. I want to say thank you for approving these out-of-state and overnight field trips that we have every year for our career and technical student organizations. And I also want to thank you for showing support. Many of you have served as judges at the local level for some of these competitions, and so we can't have national winners if we don't have support at the local level, and so we're very grateful. So at first, we will recognize the national champion for FBLA Mission and Pledge. We have Sean St. Villas. If he'll go ahead and come forward, along with his FBLA advisors, both of them are here tonight. We'll have Mr. Theus, and we will have Mr. Thompson to join us tonight. And Miss Krill is here supporting her LAJH Tigers. Sean's even brought his award there. So let's give Sean one more round of applause. All right, for the Technology Student Association, we have another national champion, and that is Jana Lauer. She was not able to be with us tonight, but we have the 5th and 6th place students in the country. We have with us Grayson Tompkins on that 5th place team. On the 6th place system control team, we have Bobby Baggett, Timothy McKeon, and Grayson Tompkins, if they would please come forward. And you will notice they have all of their TSA garb and pins and things they've won. And we have their advisor is Miss Maria Binkin. She can go ahead and come forward. All right, and I want Ms. Binkin to stay right there. Ms. Binkin has served as a teacher for 26 years, and she is our only TSA advisor that we have in the county. She actually advises not only the Lake Asbury chapter, but when her students move on to high school, she continues to serve as their advisor. And Maria was honored in Louisville this summer as the National TSA Middle School Advisor of the Year. Thank you so much for honoring our students and teachers.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I'm so impressed by what our Career and Tech Ed department offers to kids, just boundless opportunities, and we're really grateful for the work that they do. All right, so at this time, we don't have a school showcase. We're not quite back in session yet, so kids enjoy those last few days of summer. So this will be our last call for comment cards. If there's anybody else who wants to address the board, just hold up a comment card if you haven't turned it in yet, so I know to wait a minute for you. All right, so we'll move on to that section. Our first speaker tonight, Miss Judith Chapel. And as a reminder, when you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, good evening. I think it's late. Good evening. My name is Judith Chapel, and I am at 1604 Royal Fern Lane in Fleming Island, Florida. The first time I spoke to the board as a grandmother and now parent of my 12-year-old granddaughter, I spoke about screen time and my concern about screen time in the classroom. I am coming to speak about that same thing again today. I did happen to watch the 2 workshops, and I know you guys were discussing Achieve and the screen time. I know it's kind of a moot point at this time because I did happen to go online and pull the contract and saw that the contract had actually already been signed. It was signed on July 18, 2023. For $619,995 for the Achieve 3000 contract for the year. I was a little bit disturbed by it because I was thinking, well, maybe my granddaughter won't have to do Achieve this year because she's going to junior high, and I don't think they're going to do Achieve in junior high. But then I looked and I saw that there is actually Achieve all the way through high school because I actually saw the name of her school, Green Cove Junior, that's going to be on here. And I toyed back and forth with whether or not I was going to put Michaela in public school in Clay County because of screen time and schools and things like that. And I do appreciate so much what the teachers do and what Clay County does. But I am concerned about screen time, and I know how there's a certain percentage of time that they have to do with iReady and Alex, and I called it George, and a lot of other different things, and Pinda, and a lot of other things that they have to do with screen time. And I have to force Michaela to actually pick up a book. You know, these things would have actually paper in it. And I'm concerned that because I'm fighting with her about put your phone down and get away from the computer and get away from the TV, but then in school she's being pushed towards Achieve, and we put so much money in that. And I heard Mr. Browski say something that we don't want to take this away from the teachers right now because the teachers may not be prepared as to what it is to do with the students right now. So I have a concern as a parent that we may have teachers that don't know what to do with students. I don't want technology to be used as a babysitting tool. I want us to be able to engage with students. So I still come before you again with us rethinking what we're doing with students and pushing them so much towards technology and pulling them away from that engagement that they so dearly need. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Our next speaker is Constance Higginbotham.
Hi, I'm Constance Higginbotham. I'm the president of the Clay County Education Retired. I'm here for two purposes tonight. The first to tell you that we are, as an organization, sponsoring a scholarship grant for teachers for an innovative lesson in their classroom for $150 this year. And we're hoping to get those applications out by the 15th of August and have them back by September the 30th. So just to let you know, we are doing that this year to start the year off. But second thing is, although we're retired, we think about children all the time, think about our students all the time. And I wanted to point out or read a poem that my husband found the first year that I started teaching. And I used to read it every day the first day of school. So just want to share it with you. It's called We Pray for the Children, and it's by Ina Hughes. It says, we pray for the children who sneak popsicles before supper, who erase holes in math workbooks, who can never find their shoes. And we pray for those who stare at photographers from behind barbed wire, who can't bound down the street in a new pair of sneakers, who never counted potatoes, who are born in places where we wouldn't be caught dead, who never go to the circus, who live in an X-rated world. We pray for the children who bring us sticky kisses and fistfuls of dandelions, who sleep with their cat and bury their goldfish, who hug us in a hurry and forget their lunch money, who squeeze toothpaste all over the sink, and who slurp their soup. We pray for those who never get dessert, who have no safe blanket to drag behind them, who watch their parents watch them die. We can't find those who can't find any bread to steal, and those who don't have any rooms to clean up, whose pictures aren't on anybody's dresser, and whose monsters are real. We pray for the children who spend all their allowance before Tuesday, who throw tantrums in the grocery store and pick at their food, who like ghost stories, who shove dirty clothes under the bed and never rinse out the tub, who get visits from the tooth fairy, who don't like to be kissed in front of the carpool, who squirm in church or temple and scream while I'm on the phone, whose tears we sometimes laugh at, and whose smiles can make us cry. And we pray for those whose nightmares come in the daytime, who have never seen a dentist, who will eat anything, who aren't spoiled by anybody, who go to bed hungry and cry themselves to sleep, who live and move but have no being. We pray for the children who want to be carried, and for those who must, for those we never give up on, and for those who don't get a second chance, for those we smother, and for those who will grab the hand of anybody kind enough to offer it. We pray for the children of Clay County, and we hope to have a great year.
Thank you. Next, we have Don Hall.
Hello, my name is Dawn Hall. My address is on file, now that I know I can say that. So I already emailed each member of the board as well as Mr. Daly regarding book challenges, getting books back in the classroom, and contesting the removal of specific materials. I requested a list of removed books with the rationale as to why each book was removed. There's a few in particular that I have close to my heart that I really want to know about, but I have yet to receive that list or be informed as to how to become a member of the review committee. I'm very interested in those things, and I feel like it should be easy enough to get that information, as easy as it was for me to get the form of what book my child is allowed to get from the classroom, isn't allowed to get from the media center, isn't allowed to get from the media center, and also the option of no books from the media center, which that was an interesting thing, but it's an option to every single parent. So if you don't want a child to read something and you have a child in the county, use that. Don't take away the books from everybody else. Now, as to the hundreds of books that I have, literally hundreds of books, if not thousands of books, that I have personally removed from classrooms since the last meeting, because the last meeting is the first time that I've done it, we're doing it wrong. We're doing it wrong in this county, and it makes me so mad that I'm crying because I'm angry about it. The statute states, and I quote, "Each elementary school must publish on its website a searchable format." It doesn't mean it has to be in Destiny. It doesn't mean it has to be in the school library. The classrooms have their own books that the teachers have gone out and gotten for their students that are appropriate for their students. There are other counties. I have other friends who are teachers in other counties who are making lists for each classroom. And that way, the teacher can give this or publish it on the website. And then the interested parents can go and say, you know what? Here's this form. I don't want my child to have any of these books. I don't want my child to have access to any books in your classroom either. I don't believe in books. Fine. The restriction that we're making on our county is unintentionally harmful. I understand that we're trying to abide by the statute, but I was told that each school gets to submit 2 books per grade level per semester. It will take years to get the books back that I've personally taken off the shelves, let alone the books that I haven't even seen that are in other schools. No new books, just getting the books back that haven't been challenged, have no reason to be challenged. My example is the Bridgestone Science Library. I took this from a gifted classroom today. The ones that were okay were the Bridgestone Science Library, your muscles, your stomach, your bones. Those were fine. The ones that I had to take out because they're not in there, your lungs, your heart, your brain. And it makes sense to me because it's hard for me to breathe or think or feel about it because those are books that the teacher has there for the students to be able to read on their own. It's a gifted classroom. They're self-directed kids, and they're being punished because of a Florida statute that is being implemented in a harmful way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Christy Tarot.
Hi there. My name is Christy Tarot. I reside in Clay County. My address is on file. I'm an media specialist at Oak Leaf High School, and I'm here to reference an article in the Bradford Telegraph, the June 29th edition, in regarding the June 20th workshop. In the article, it stated that 488 books have been challenged, had extremely low circulations. That is not true at Oak Leaf High School. Some of those books had very high circulations, for example, Dear Martin and Hate You Give. It also stated that each new title contemplated for purchase, the media specialist, principal, and district would review each proposed acquisition. In May, the media specialists were informed that a pre-approved list would be available to make purchases from. The copyright would have to be within the last 3 years. This leaves out some much-loved books that need to be replaced for wear and tear, or maybe a popular book that was lost. Those would not be there because of the copyright date. The media specialist met at the beginning of the summer for a PD where we would look at reviews for books. If 2 media specialists approved of the book, then it would go to the district for review to put on the pre-approved list. When asked, would we be held accountable if we said the book was okay, and it was later challenged, the response was, "I'm not sure." The article also stated there would be 3 options for parents. Yesterday, we found out there was option number 4. The junior and senior high librarians were notified that for students to check out a book, they will have to have a parent permission form on file in the media center, which would have to be filled out every year. Is this board policy? Did you know about it? Has it been voted on? Also stated that students now like digital formats. My students would not agree with that statement. We have an active book club. We have our 16 book club challenge students that like physical books. They don't like the ebook format. It also stated that students just use the libraries for printing. Not at OHS. Come see us and we'll show you. It was also stated, it was discussed that funding for libraries to take away some money because, we're not buying books right now. The money is allocated from the state in the library media materials allocation. It's distributed to the schools by the number of students. I think that's how y'all do it. But I don't think, since it's from the state, that you can just take money away and reallocate it. And we purchase more than books. We purchase databases. We purchase materials for students and teachers. I spent some of my money on one of those nice big screens so that students and teachers could use it there in the library this year. I also purchased Ed Puzzle for my teachers to use. So with the funds, we purchase so much more than just books. My challenge for each one of you is to come and visit our libraries. I don't think y'all have graced the doors of OHS Library. Please come find out what we do. Ask us. Ask us what's important to us. Talk to our students about the libraries. Talk to our teachers. Ask our opinions on how the challenges are going and how we can improve the process. My library door, and I'm sure I speak for all the librarians here, is always open. Please come visit us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carol Newburn.
Good evening, leadership. Good evening, leadership. Appreciate you being here. What you do, everything you do. And after watching, my name's Carol Newburn. My address is on file. After watching the workshop last week, I would like to commend Dr. Legutko. Is that how you say it? You're brilliant. I mean, you made budget sound easy. I mean, I understood things I've never understood before. You really have a gift in sharing and stuff like that. But in light of watching I've watched several workshops now, and I have some questions. Who has authority, responsibility, and what accountability to teachers, students, and parents is in place in reference to purchasing programs for use in schools? I noticed in this workshop and in other workshops an overall desire from all sides for more timely information on decisions that need to be made. Is there a process in place before these programs are implemented and paid for that provides an opportunity for transparent review by teachers and parents? Who makes the decisions? At this past workshop, one particular item was brought up by a board member concerning a program provided as a resource to teachers. Her anecdotal experience in talking to teachers and students was that this program was not well liked or effective. I would have loved to see the superintendent acknowledge that the board member has a good point and would have initiated an immediate inquiry, a way to get data from teachers, students, and parents before committing to spend the money, again, on something that may or may not have a good return on investment, not to mention the harm of the quality of the teaching experience for both teachers and students. Is there a process in place before these programs are implemented and paid for, providing opportunity for transparent review by teachers and parents? Who makes the decisions? And what would it take to get a more proactive in establishing authority, responsibility, and accountability? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kelly, please forgive me if I say this incorrectly, Stoudner.
Good evening. My name is Kellystadner, and I'm at 1500 Calming Water Drive, Unit 5001, Fleming Island. And by the way, I like sixth graders a lot more than this. This is a little intimidating here. I came here tonight not only as a teacher, but more importantly, as a mother of incoming third and seventh grade students. I am concerned, and if I may speak frankly, outraged over the new standard SS.68.AA.2.3, which examines the various duties and trades performed by slaves. The benchmark clarification states, and I quote, "Instruction includes how slaves develop skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit," end quote. The notion that slaves in some instances benefited is heartbreaking, historically inaccurate, and wrong. While the end of slavery stopped the whipping, sexual assaults, and selling of family members, slaves did not obtain personal benefit. Most freed slaves lived in desperate rural poverty as they were denied education and wages while enslaved. It is believed that a quarter of freed slaves died from disease or hunger. I believe we can do better for the community by standing together against this new standard. Florida seems to pride itself on parental rights in their child's education, so at the very least, I am requesting parents have the right to have their children excluded from these lessons on objection to the historical inaccuracies and moral judgment. I sincerely hope the school board will extend the personal rights and choices to this standard as other situations in education. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Tom Doan.
Good evening. My name's Tom Doan. I live at 2055 Turner Road, Green Cove Springs. I've been a resident of Clay County and went through the Clay County school system. And like I said, I've been a resident of Clay County for 66 years. And I'm 77 now. I moved here from Indiana when I was 11. I think Clay County has some of the excellent teachers around the state, and I commend Mr. Broski for his guidance. And but I have a couple things, three things that I'd like to mention for your consideration. And some of these may be a moot point. Maybe it's already been discussed. I don't know, but I want to bring it up. Number one, put a traffic light at Spring Park Elementary. Why can't we have a traffic light at Clay High School? I don't know if that's been put up or not. If you've ever, I live on Turner Road, which is across from Clay High. We live on the family farm back there. If you've ever tried to get out on 16 from to around Clay High School, you're going to be sitting in traffic, can't get out in traffic for at least 30 minutes because there's so much traffic, the kids coming in school. And I don't understand why we can't put a traffic light there if we put one at Spring Park Elementary, and you're only going to have maybe, 50 kids walking down the sidewalk to go to that school. Number two, graduation services for Clay High School. I don't know whether it's been brought up, but why can't we have graduation services for Clay High School at the Clay County Fair Association out the fairgrounds? You have more than ample parking, more than ample seating for people to be in out of the rain. Seems like every graduation it rains. And you have traffic up and down Highway 16, which is a safety factor, not only them, but for football games too. And looks like Clay High is getting some more parking, but I still don't think it's going to be enough. But traffic backs up on at football games and at graduation, clear down to the cemetery and all the way almost up to 315. It's a real sore point with me because of the safety factor, people getting out and walking down the street, and cars coming down 16 doing 45, 50 miles an hour. And that's just, that's one of my pet peeves, really. And the third thing I like to bring up is School police. We've had many discussions with friends and family and people that I know throughout the county. And I know quite a few people, believe me, I had a parts house in Green Cove for 17 years. But school police, I understand the chief might be retiring next year. And I wonder, why can't we bring the responsibility of the school police under the direction of the county sheriff instead of having a school sheriff? I mean, it's the police department. Why can't we have it just under one? And I think maybe that would resolve a lot of problems. And the other problem I have, one more time, I know time's up, but, and I only know about Clay High School because I live there. But when school lets out, why can't the school police direct traffic? You see them sitting in their car. And if they could direct traffic, I think traffic would move a little bit faster. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Leanne Lunsford.
My name's Leanne Lunsford. Address is on file. The last workshop was an embarrassment to this district. An open letter targeting one board member with a lot of accusations thrown in it seems to be on brand for Clay County. With the way misinformation spreads, the way policies set forth by the board aren't equally followed, and essentially leaves many feeling voiceless. But I'm never going to allow someone's attempt to smear my name and use their position for intimidation to silence me. A few topics. No one is questioning the need for law enforcement at our schools. What was questioned at inception of force and continues is the way the system is set up. The superintendent, to my knowledge, has no formal training or experience in law enforcement, so it's problematic for him to be the one the chief reports to, while also being the supervisor of administration. There should be separation of duty and power. As for the Parkland reference, I've made it myself. Not as an insult to an officer's ability or sacrifice, but the fact of the way the system is set up, very much like the Promise program, which led to what occurred there, which is a direct correlation to how underreporting is happening in this district. If the administration does not inform an officer of an incident that happened because they're handling it internally, the officer is not to blame and it does not get reported, which circles back to Promise program. And I know it has happened and not just once in this county. Transparency of issues in our schools is almost zero because FERP is being used as a shield to shield incidents. And that's a whole other issue with some different litigation going on that argues discipline issues aren't protected under FERPA, so that may soon change as those cases are heard. There are many other issues, but I only have so much time, lucky for y'all. But it goes to this. When we question the district policy and procedures, it gets turned around to we're attacking teachers. When we question the police force and the system that's set up under, it's turned around to we're attacking officers, and neither are true. We're questioning the system. There's a saying, to follow the money. That should tell you it's not the teachers or the officers, because they sure aren't financially benefiting. It's those that always control the money where the issue is. And this is just an added note. Last month, it was moved to have more officers here. There was no reason given. The chair just made that decision or announcement last month. And from what I understand from talking to several officers, there's been no threats and our meetings aren't unruly. But yet there's at least 5 officers here, which is a 1-to-1 ratio for each board member. Meanwhile, on an average, our kids are 1 officer to 1,300 students. So who's benefiting from our tax dollars?
Next, we have Tanya Casper.
Good evening, Tanya Casper. My address is on file. Just want to talk to you guys about some of the things you've already heard about today. The school board police have been a topic over the past few school board meetings and workshops. I appreciate Ms. Skipper for having the courage and the political will necessary to ask hard questions and to ensure that her constituents' concerns are voiced and questions are answered. Last board meeting, Ms. Hanson pointed out that she had looked into Clay County school discipline data. She accurately stated that Clay County School District had underreported crimes to our school board police. Thank you, Ms. Hanson, for taking the time to look at the data and bring this to our attention. I researched the assessor and student discipline data, and I found some very concerning trends. The data shows an alarming trend of increased assessor events. For example, in 2020-2021 school year, there were 513 events reported. In 2021-22 school year, that number of events increased to 1,880. That's over a 300% increase. Additionally, there has been a sharp and very concerning decline in reporting to the police. In 1920, 45% of these events were reported to the police. In 2020, 2021, 26% of those events were reported to police. In 2021, 2022, 0.06 were reported to the police, less than 1%. Before gaslighting from the district office begins, it's important to note that this is not the trend across the state. Hernando County reported 74% of these incidents. Flagler reported 83% to law enforcement. Possibly even more concerning is the types of crimes that are not being reported to law enforcement. Here are a few examples. At Clay High, drug distribution and sales, there were 5 incidents, 0 were reported to law enforcement. Weapons, 4 happened, 0 reported to law enforcement. At Fleming Island High, there was drugs and sales distributions, so we have selling of drugs at our school, 0 reported to law enforcement. A total of 128 events that were not reported to law enforcement. Even more alarming to that is that 45 weapons in Clay County, single one was reported to law enforcement. I'm asking that each of the board members take a look into this data and gain an understanding as to why our county is choosing to not report crimes such as selling drugs, having weapons on campus, aggravated battery, and more. How are we going to keep our schools safe? This data can be found at the Florida Department of Education Safe School website under Discipline Data, if you would like to look it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Bruce Friedman.
Hi, Bruce Friedman, address on file. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. All of you are in big, comfortable chairs. You've been resting while our libraries were turned into polluted horror. People are complaining about the books that have to be patiently entered into the Destiny system. Talk about the 192 pornographic titles that have been removed. Not because of anything any of you have done, but because the community put together an effort to reveal that these items violated law. There are hundreds more. There are 2,000 books no one's even read yet. They've appeared on challenge lists throughout the country. I brought your attention to the level of pollution. You've done nothing. Thanks for that. I'm going to read to you from a book that I challenged over a year ago, that I appealed numerous times in the last many months. The book is called Heroin by Mindy McGinnis. Children are not present. That's a good thing. Page 29, can I rub your back? How about your vagina? Page 127, I'm even better at scanner codes than I am at blowjobs, she says, sucking on her fork. Page 286, I make a fist, I find a blue line, I break my skin, I puncture a vein, I pull blood up into the syringe, watch it dissipate for a moment, a part of my body outside of myself, diluted in heroin, drowning, then I plunge, I am suspended in warmth, elongated like my blood in the barrel, dissipating. I am wholly without pain or caring, even when I vomit. The act itself is almost graceful. I'm going to skip ahead to the profanity count. I've said enough bad words tonight. Thanks for not turning off my mic. The word that's loosely equivalent to a donkey is mentioned 11 times. A female dog twice. A person named Richard 5 times. The F word 46 times. Urination, use your judgment, 15 times. A bad word for a vagina twice. And the S word 61 times. This book failed its challenge, was voted okay for our high schools and our children. Do better. Have a great night.
Next is Samantha Werner. Ms. Werner, I see you have 2 cards here, but each person gets 3 minutes. So you get 3 minutes total. Oh, okay.
I'm reading directly from here, and I'm going to be reading really fast. So, Samantha Werner, address on file. My time's already started, great. Dear members of the school board, I'm coming to you now as a concerned constituent and parent. In 2021, a child at one of our schools, under the direction and guidance of one of our counselors, dealt with a mental health crisis so severe that it caused her to seek ending her life, not once but twice. Since then, with this knowledge, we have elected a new board with hope that the future would be brighter for families like the Perez's. You all ran for parental rights. However, I was shocked to see that public records that there was a motion to dismiss filed in June of this year with our school board attached in defense, claiming these allegations are false and seeking to dismiss the tragedy this family dealt with. I'm here to tell you all publicly in this room that this case is real, and it's still in litigation to this day. It alarmed me. We put our trust in you to believe us as parents, especially with something as awful as this. So I reached out to some of you individually to ask you if you were aware that this was in the court system. I'm saddened to learn you had not even been told about it and notified of these case filings, including the amended complaint in May and the response just filed on July 31st. The upbringing of the Perez's child is their fundamental right. The 2 subsequent suicide attempts and notifying a minor child's parent is also a fundamental parental right, and to be honest, it's common sense. This family deserves people to sit down and discuss with them what happened. I do find it disturbing that you didn't know about any of this, and so I have questions. Just like the policy that was voted in August to sidestep the law. I have printed out public records that I obtained myself to provide you a copy to read since you haven't seen it. I urge you to question the integrity of these filings as they have your name attached to them. I urge you to ask why you were not informed and who allowed this to be signed in your name. I urge you to tell the public that you weren't informed. I urge you to ask your school board attorney to ask to withdraw the dismissal. I urge you to revisit the policy you enacted in August to comply with Florida law. The welfare and well-being of our children is a fundamental constitutional right. This is why parents battle in court for custody on who can make religious, medical, and educational decisions for their children. Parents, not government bodies. Remember why we voted for you. Do what's right and ask the questions so allegations can stop being hidden rumors and we can protect our children. Mr. Broski, you were appointed by Governor DeSantis in 2020 to be superintendent. I'm asking that on your road to re-election that you consider what dismissing a family like this looks like with the proof that they have, as this is parental rights. Because as you see, we're paying attention. Thank you.
Next is Sherry McGriff.
Hello, my name is Sherry McGriff. My address is on file. And yes, that was me that booed. Yes, it's unprofessional, but I'm not on the school board, and your last workshop was very unprofessional. Hate to see the personal attacks. If you want to write a personal letter to a fellow board member, and you're not really supposed to talk outside of the, the workshops and stuff, maybe you shouldn't read your letters. It also seemed like you were looking for a safe space, and I'm talking to you, Ms. Bolas, since you also personally attacked a citizen and a board member. This is not a safe space where you need to go hide and no one's allowed to bring a motion. You're allowed to bring a motion and then pull it to discussion to discuss it. It's pretty simple. It's not shocking. I'm sure you saw the data before we saw it of the 2021, and Ms. Kaysen talked about it, the Cesare incidents where 1,880 incidents were in Clay County and only 11 were reported. That right there shows us that the school police is a failure, and this does not mean the police officers themselves. This means, and the buck stops with you, Mr. Broski, who is telling them not to report? Why is there underreporting? Why are 45 weapons in our schools not being reported? Why is sexual assault not being reported? Why? Why? I know, you're smirking. It's okay. That's fine. There's a couple reasons it's possible. Just as a parent, a community, are there kickbacks involved? I don't know. Maybe we should look into it. Are there contracts involved? I know Addison Davis brought in the police force when we had the sheriff before, I assume. I didn't live here then. Well, I did, but anyway. Is it concerning pretending that all the schools are safe so we can bring in more housing? More citizens that are all moving to Florida because we're supposedly where woke goes to die, and we all know that's not true, because obviously when Mr. Friedman read that pornographic book, you said it's okay to give to our high school students. I don't know. That kind of infuriates me. Yeah, they can get porn on their phone, but they don't need to get it from our schools, okay? They don't need to get it from our schools. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So is it new housing? Is it contracts? Is there nepotism involved? Is it re-election? What is it? Why are we underreporting crime in schools? Why? I mean, I personally saw a student crying out for help from Ridgeview High School on the Nextdoor app because no one would listen. And I personally contacted several board members with the information they put on the Nextdoor app because no one would listen. No one would listen about how unsafe the school is. So get a grip. We need the sheriff's department back, okay?
Next is Sheila Torres, and that's our final speaker for the night.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Judith Torres. I am a parent of two Orange Park students. One goes to high, one goes to middle school. I am concerned for the safety and the well-being of all students within the county. I am aware, and like the lady just prior to me has stated the statistic of underreporting. My son was assaulted by 3 kids at the school, in the middle school, and when I brought that up to their attention, they absolutely did nothing. These 3 kids that assaulted my kid, they basically broke his phone, damaged his belonging, his book bag, his books, and everything else within it. When I took it upon to the teacher, they took 2 weeks to tell me exactly that they found the 3rd perpetrator. I asked them for the removal of those kids from my kids' classroom, and no, they did not do that, because to them, it was a lot easier to remove one child. Now, the fact being that I tried to go ahead and press charges, they intimidated me, telling me that if I was to press charges, that my son will also get arrested because my son actually tried to defend himself. That right there is a threat to his well-being, is a threat to his safety, and as a parent, I am outraged because these 3 students were still in his class. None of his teacher was aware about it. Superintendent, I beg you to please look at me while I'm speaking because this is very important. Because the fact being is that kids are getting assaulted, nothing is being done to those that are doing the assaulting to these students, this bullying. And then when kids finally stand up against these bully, they get reprimanded and they get put in ISS. None of these kids was out of school suspension. None of these kids was an ISS. None of these teachers was aware because when the teacher called me to tell me that my son was fidgeting, that my son did not bring his book bag, his book to take his note, I told this teacher, sir, were you aware that my son got assaulted by 2 of your students? He told me, no, ma'am. How long must it be before something is done to protect our kids? This is getting outrageous and ridiculous. I moved from another state over here, but I didn't expect to see what I'm seeing right now in the school. Kids are getting touched. Kids are getting bullied, assaulted in bathrooms, in other places. The sheriff's department is needed because if the Clay Police Department is not doing nothing but intimidating us parents for advocating for our kids, we do not need them. And admin is not doing nothing about it, and I want to know what's going on. And the fact being that there are still teachers bullying these kids is another issue, because if my son has a certain 504 plan and is not being met, that to me is an issue, because this one teacher is constantly sending my son to ISS, so he's losing educational time. That is another issue. And the lady, Mrs. Walsh, who's in charge of the ESC program in Orange Park, is actually bullying these kids where, how you gonna rent an accommodation when my son can have a fidgety toy, but when he's in your program, you take it away? Make that make sense. It's time to protect our kids.
All right, at this time, we will move to the consent agenda. We've had 2 modifications. Item C13, the affiliation agreement between Clay County District Schools and Liberty University was withdrawn. And the item C10 for approval for the purchase of Achieve 3000 blended literacy solution for 2023-2024 was pulled to discussion by Ms. Hanson. Did you have something? Okay. All right, so at this time, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion from Ms. Bola and a second from Ms. Clark. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. And I failed to inform the audience, we have Ms. Skipper attending remotely by phone, so she's participating as well.
I'm sorry, I didn't come on to say aye. Sorry.
That's okay. All right, next on the agenda is our CCEA update from Ms. Kidwell.
Thank you for the opportunity to share the educator perspective as we begin the 23-24 school year. Still at the top of teacher concern, books. As educators return to school to prepare for accelerating the achievement of all Clay County students, they were informed today that all junior high and high school students will be required to have a permission slip to access books in the media center and classroom libraries. I can hardly believe it and hope and pray that our educators are misinformed. Surely the district has not made the radical decision to restrict access to all books as though there were somehow a danger to students. When was this decision made? Who decided this? Were parents and the community involved in this decision? Did this decision come before the school board? I haven't missed a meeting, and like our educators, I am completely blindsided by this change. Was the school board aware and in agreement of such a drastic change from the previous opt-out to now an opt-in for access to books? It seems astonishing to me that a law meant to protect students from a possibility of a book with obscene material has instead resulted in Clay County schools locking down the freedom to read and sending the message to all students and parents that books are dangerous and require parental permission to access. I, as many others, await a response that helps us make sense of the rationale for this change and increased restriction. At the elementary level, we are still hoping for a common sense plan to restore classroom library access by fast-tracking primary books not found in Destiny. As was stated earlier, there are other ways to catalog books besides Destiny. While the district has now outlined a written plan, that plan does not answer specific questions about primary self-selected reading material. Teaching students to become fluent readers requires practice and high-interest texts that progress from simple to more complex. How can students at any age learn to think, achieve, and love learning and reading without access to highly engaged, self-selected reading material? And then there's the new law, HB 1537. Yesterday, elementary teachers were told that in compliance with this new law, all students down to pre-K will be able to carry and self-administer over-the-counter headache medicines. While this may make sense for secondary students, it is ridiculous for elementary students without age restriction to be responsible for self-administration of headache medicines. At a time when the state is hyper-vigilant on parental rights and teachers and schools are more liable to legal jeopardy, this makes no sense. CCA will be pushing hard for the Clay County to develop common sense procedures that inform parents and protect teachers from a liability this law will bring about. Finally, there is a little bit of good news. I want to express my appreciation for the responsiveness of our school board and superintendent for listening to me when I expressed the concerns of our elementary educators about class coverage. It was only 2 days ago that I emailed the school board and superintendent and asked them to reinstate the elementary class coverage MOU. I'm told today you will look at that and discuss the possibility of extending this. I urge you to appreciate what our elementary educators do, extend that coverage, and help them know that you prioritize what they do and value the difference they make in students' lives. I hope we are able to work together to find solutions to the challenges that arise this year, and we always can come together to do what is best for students, our educators, and Clay County schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kidwell. Do we have a CESPA update tonight? I don't see anybody in the audience. Okay. So at this time, we'll move on to the superintendent's update and presentation.
All right. While I'm waiting on Ms. Watt to bring me that, let me just kind of address a couple things that I heard here today. In regard to the 2021 discipline data, that data is available within Synergy, and the data is there. It's not on the state website, unfortunately, because of compatibility issues with Synergy. But all of the police reports, all of the data is there. Anyone can look at that data that wants to see that data. It's all there, including the police actions that were taken there. So that would eliminate that one. In regard to process for purchasing, I agree with the individual that spoke earlier. The process and the engagement, the screen time are all things that should be considered in the purchase of materials. So we could certainly do a better job with that, with all of those programs. So I would agree there. I will say that the theme of this year is engagement. I know the speaker talking about screen time and students being actually engaged. That is the theme of this school year. So I think those things will eventually be taken down the right path there. So with that in mind, I'm going to bring forward, I'm going to tell you what, I'm excited that the school year started. I know that after hearing those things, we sometimes forget it's really about kids and what happens with kids when they come to school. So I'm going to focus on a couple things. You see the topic up there, the state assessments this year, the new school year coming up, transportation, all kinds of things happening here last minute trying to get ready. First, state assessment results. Okay, in the new state assessment, here's how we ranked overall in comparison to the 67 counties in various topics. You can see second and sixth in ELA. You can see third, fifth, and third in math, sixth in science, first in civics, in seventh grade civics, fourth in U.S. history, second overall in social studies. Lots of good things happening out in schools. I know that the focus needs to be on students in the classroom, what students are learning, and the opportunities presented them. So just kind of run through these quickly. You can see the difference between Florida, the rest of the state, and Clay County, and I'll go through these quickly. ELA achievement, you can see how we rank there. You can see how we're doing in Algebra 1, a huge difference between Florida as a state, everyone, and Clay County as a district. So you can see a lot of good things happening within our math civics, about 93%. That's the highest in the state of Florida, folks. They're doing a good job. They're rocking it out there in the classroom, teaching students civics and the importance of civics in a free society is huge, huge, and we're leading the state in that. Here's fifth grade science. You can see a 12-point difference between the state and the rest of Clay County. So lots of good things happening in the classroom from last year. We're looking forward to continuing that this year. I know that, as a new school year comes, lots of new change, lots of new things happening out there. I know this. I went out to about 16 schools in the last couple of days, and I see teachers out there excited. You can see the owls on the left. I mean, brand new school, they're excited. You see the teachers there getting ready for students to return on the 10th. Everyone's excited for students to come back. How about secondary schools, our camps for 7th grade and 9th grade? Pivotal years when you first go to junior high school, when you first go to high school, how you start there is so important to get off to a good start. You'd be so impressed with the orientation programs that happened at all of our schools to get students prepared for that. And the spirit of volunteerism of the teachers and leaders that showed up there to ensure that that occurs and that experience was positive for a student as they start at their new school. Very proud of that. Teachers return, you could see more teacher stuff out there. They were all rocking it when they returned on Wednesday. You can see in-service day tomorrow, see all the various programs that are going on, all the various sessions that are going to be taught tomorrow. Tomorrow's a learning day for teachers. Yeah, learning occurs for everyone. Clay County teachers, they're eager to meet students and their families. You can see more pictures of teachers. I don't have any pictures of students yet. They don't start until the 10th. That'll be next month. I want to talk a little bit about transportation. I love the graphic, Kelly. That's awesome. Okay, I didn't know it could do that. It's the first time I saw that. Okay, one of the areas that may be one of the toughest areas in the whole organization is transportation. It just is, right? Just imagine trying to travel buses over 644 square miles and cover 3.2 million miles in a school year and coordinate all of that and try to stay on time. Be a very challenging job. How about this? All of our routes have been established. That's one of the reasons why we were asking parents to register so that we would actually know the number of people that are going to ride on a bus to increase the efficiency of those routes. How about being fully staffed? How about an amen? Okay, I was at a superintendent Zoom meeting, and they were talking about staffing. They were talking about bus drivers, and they said, is there anybody fully staffed for transportation? And not a single person said anything, and I gotta be honest, I didn't say anything either because I felt bad being the only kid in the class that had achieved that. I was kind of like, okay, do I say it? Nah, I'm not going to say it. I don't want to get picked on in this group. So we actually have 4 additional drivers, more than the actual routes that we have. That's simply amazing. I throw a lot of kudos out to Randall Crawford and his team out there. They've kind of not only rocked it with recruiting people, but also created an atmosphere where people want to work in transportation. And that's not an easy feat to work on the culture of an organization the way that that team has and everybody out there. I'm very, very proud of that. They're all trained and they're ready for students. So here's their safety training. At first I asked, what is that bottom left? It's actually smoke within the bus, and they're escaping out of a smoke-filled bus. So that lots of training going on. There's the transportation link. The MyOneClay bus.myoneclay.net. You can find bus planner there. If parents have a question, because this is probably the most common question we get on day one, is about transportation. Like, where's my bus? What time does my bus start? All of that. You can see the hotline number, 336-0111. Food Nutrition Services. You can see all of our new CEP schools. We did have a slight increase of 1/4 in the meal price, but it hadn't been raised in a number of years, and inflation is what it is. Entry requirements for kindergarten and 7th grade. Remember, in the state of Florida, 7th graders have to have a Tdap shot, an immunization there. There's 2 forms, the 680 or the 681. The 681 is the exemption form, if you so choose to complete that form for an exemption. But the law requires one of those forms filled out for students. Okay, so there's a no-cost immunization drive taking place at the fairgrounds from the 3rd to the 17th, 8 to 2. Please go out and get that accomplished. Upcoming events, we got teachers returning, students returning, Labor Day, Patriot Day, Constitution Day, Celebrate Freedom Day. And let me just say this to everyone. You know, the first couple days, there's kind of a breaking in period, if you will. Can you think of any other organization that is not in operation for an almost 8-week period, and then you turn the light switch on at the exact same time, and everything's supposed to work? Every computer's supposed to work, every bus is on time, every lunch is served perfectly on time. It would be kind of unreasonable to think that that would happen. There's normally a 5-day kind of breaking in period. So parents, if you're on the road and you say, hey, there's a lot of people on the road. Yes, 40,000 people have decided to go on the road at the same time as you. So that takes a little bit of time. Everybody figures it out about their individual schedule, their individual route to school, but it just takes a couple of days to get to that point. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Broski, I have to tell you, I was sitting at my son's football practice Tuesday night, and I overheard a gentleman talking next to me about the wonderful opportunities and experiences he's having in his role as a bus driver in Clay County.
Awesome.
And then we had a lengthy conversation about the change that he's seen over the years and how much he enjoys the work that Randall's doing there. And anyway, it was just wonderful to hear somebody just randomly talking about the joys of being a bus driver in Clay County. All right, so at this time we will move to our discussion agenda. The first item is, we have no human resources special action tonight. So the first item is the public hearing to approve the advertised modifications to the 2022-2023 student progression plan. So I will now open the public hearing. If anybody would like to speak to that item, if you'll just come to the podium, you don't need a yellow card for that. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
A motion from Ms. Hanson. Do we have a second?
I'll second the approval.
Second from Ms. Bola. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Our next item is C10, approval for the purchase of Achieve 3000 blended literacy solution for 2023-2024. It was pulled by Ms. Hanson, so the floor is yours.
First of all,
do we need a motion before we? Okay.
Yeah.
So let me have a motion and a second, and then I'll let you lead the discussion.
For discussion purposes, I'll move approval.
Okay. I have a motion from Ms. Bola. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ms. Clark. All right. Discussion. Thank you, Ms. Hanson.
So I may be naive, but am I talking for no reason? Is the Achieve 3000 contract signed 10 days before our meeting?
No, ma'am, it's not signed or executed until the board votes.
Okay, because I didn't look, and I'm new, so might be my mistake. Regardless of how the board decides, I don't talk about a lot of things, but I feel like this is kind of like a spearhead for me when it comes to, one, being fiscally responsible, and two, maybe looking for ways to better educate our children. Everyone should always be seeking a way to better educate our kids. I need you all to know, I have typed this so I don't mess up. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be looking down without my glasses. I need you all to know that when I bring a topic to discussion is because I have valuable experience in the classroom, and I've spent hours visiting schools to talk with teachers who are our most valuable resource in the classroom. I've also done research I needed to make sure that the discussion topic was worth our time. This is not done with carelessness for the sake of being heard. Last week, Mrs. Skipper made a statement that I've thought about nearly every day. She said, paraphrasing, it's It is as if I am not allowed to have an opinion and we are never heard. She's right. Let me give you an example of the habitual process used to redirect and deflect the board nearly every time we ask for something new or when we happen chance want to discuss a topic that may be outside of the box or the window that the county office normality is looking through. During the workshop, I gave 20 valid reasons why Achieve 3000 does not benefit our students, and it comes with a price tag of $618,000. My main concern with Achieve is the complete lack of protocols and procedures that result in negative impacts on students, both emotionally and academically. I have hundreds of teacher friends, know lots of students and parents, and my personal experience for 6 years tell me my gut is not wrong about Achieve 3000. I don't talk a lot about my classroom time and being a teacher. I did silently pride myself for helping kids learn to read. When Mr. Broski called me on the phone yesterday, followed up by a letter to the board, it appeared it was an attempt to gaslight the board into one direction of thought. I decided to share how having good strategies with these programs would help our children. Please bear with me if you are not an educator and some of my terminology is unfamiliar to you. Instead of normal moaning and groaning that takes place when teachers mention Achieve, my students knew what to expect and prepared themselves. Prior to the lesson, an article was strategically selected for students with one standard in mind: mastery teaching, a standard reflecting a student deficit in knowledge. So for example, I knew before using an article the exact outcome I was looking for, which was mastery or progression. I'm going to use main idea, supporting details both directly and indirectly, as the example. When they planned a lesson in advance, copies were made of a grade level article. We call that a stretch article. There's a "today I will learn" statement on the board saying, you guys are going to be relearning or learning about main idea again today. It was part of deliberate instruction. There was always a question on the board for students to answer, to get them engaged and interested. I'll use the Bigfoot article as an example. Students love it from Achieve. Students will explain their thinking and share it with students next to them to have discussion during the open minutes of class. Next, I'd show a short documentary of scientists presenting cases and various evidence discovered from around the world. The students were to gather details they could use in a Socratic discussion following the video. During their 5-minute Socratic discussion, students were expected from grades 4 through 10 to choose a side and defend it with evidence. Next, there's a how-to lesson. You have to go and teach and reteach before a child reads an article, the standard you're trying to assess. There's a first read, consists of looking at it, getting a feel for the text, looking at the text features, trying to figure out the text structures, trying to make a prediction of what the article's about. There's a second read where students seek evidence to answer the questions in the document. They answer questions, respond to teacher-created short responses in my classroom to guarantee that they were using their critical thinking skills, the reading and writing connection, to make sure they understood the text that they read. That's not where it ends. I mean, the next day, the students are divided into small groups and given instruction through differentiation. All students need something different to succeed. The point I'm trying to make is, Achieve 3000 as a standalone assignment without guidance and instruction benefits no one. The reason this program is detrimental to students is because the articles actually assess 5 to 8 different standards, almost identical, the same standards every time a kid reads an article. What happens when students of all different abilities have not either grasped nor learned the standards of the other 7 questions? This is not a hard mathematical problem. If you only know because you're reading at the cusp of getting it, only know one of the standards, if you have only one idea of how to answer a question, you can guess what happens to most of the students when they do achieve 3,000. They consistently receive low scores and fail. Many times, teacher add this to the grade book. Many times, there's no reteaching. Oftentimes, it's left just the way it is. Students cannot know what they have not been taught. The superintendent stated that he doesn't want to pull a resource away from teachers before school starts because it's vitally important. He also stated in his letter that we only use it 3 to 4 times a month. I do not see why, if we only use it 3 to 4 times a month, which I will tell you it's more than that, but I'm going to go with 3 to 4 times a month. I do not see why curriculum coaches and specialists can't put their brains together and develop a replacement material for 3 50-minute classes a month. While they are developing supplementary material, maybe the time could be used for writing. Writing was not assessed last year and fell by the wayside for many students. Many did not write a single essay last year. I asked at 16 different schools. There will be a writing component this year, and practicing essay skills that are generalized across the curriculum will be the effort needed to catch our students up. Why not use that time for that? Because they have to read nonfiction articles for that. In addition, if the board decides to withdraw the funds, I will recommend that we go to teachers and our staff members and parents and find out what they would like us to buy for a change, because they are in the classrooms and they are actually our experts, not us. They need a voice. In closing, I am asking from this point on to not feel like I am being placated when I spend time and energy to bring forth real topics with real discussion. In the future, letting the board know, especially new board members, of upcoming purchases or major agenda items prior to the Thursday before a workshop may help with these last-minute knee-jerk reactions that I tend to have. But you have them when you find out on a Thursday, and you need to know by that following Tuesday. The delay in information and lack of communication is really the issue that keeps us from being a very dynamic team. All I can say is we have to be dealt with either way, and this will depend on the sharing of information in a timely manner, especially since new board members don't really know from month to month what's expected. I'd like to hear from the board members through some kind of question and answer format, not necessarily just about the money, but also about involving our stakeholders to do better. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I would like to just add a couple of things. I did not use Achieve because it did come in with Mr. Davis, as you mentioned. And I just want to refer back to a comment that Ms. Chapel made, and that was we need to determine what to do with students, that it's sort of a babysitting tool. I remember when Mr. Davis brought this forward. It was, and like I said, I have not used it to teach per se, but anything that has been brought to us, to the board, starting at that point, for as long as I've been on the board, has been research-based, has been vetted by, from my perspective, has been vetted by teachers, has been vetted by professionals within curriculum instruction, has been vetted by people within, for instance, reading specifically. And there have been other tools, I know, that have been brought forward, like DBQs and things of that nature that were available, for instance, in the junior high and high school, and have now been brought down to the elementary schools, which, I mean, here again, I'm no longer in the classroom, but I was thinking, would have been nice to have it when I was there. One of the things that struck me when we were working with getting into a lot of new programs that were different and unique for Clay County. And that included iReady. That included Achieve 3000. It included, I'm just going to stick with those two at this point. But one of the tools that you were mentioning at the beginning, when, for instance, teaching main idea, is the need for a teacher to differentiate instruction. And what that means for people who aren't teachers is that you have to have a tool that you can use with your lowest 25% students, and in essence, a different tool that you can use with your upper 25% students. So like those gifted kids versus the kids who struggle. And it was my understanding, and here again, haven't used it, but through research, through talking with teachers, through talking with administrators, it was my understanding that Achieve 3000 helps to accomplish that. So that when students collaborate, they have the opportunity to talk to each other, in essence, on the same playing field, on the same level. And even though I may have read, and I know that we had some of these books available in science. I'll use science, 5th grade science as an example. We had tools where we could read about, I'll just use fossils as an example. We had books that students could read, articles, and this would obviously be nonfiction in science. They could read about fossils at one level, and other students could read at a higher level, and they could come together and discuss the questions that were being asked because they read, in essence, the same thing, but not in the same method. It was easier for some, a more complicated text for others, but they were able to answer the questions and carry on a discussion collaboratively. That was my understanding of what Achieve did. Unfortunately, the only program I had that in was science. I did not have it in social studies. I did not have it in English. I'm making meaning, well, we're not going to go there. I did not have it in the curriculum that I needed when I was a self-contained teacher, and I was reaching to other people. We were sharing information from other classes. But that's where we also got into, for want of a better word, the weeds, where we were pulling information and we were pulling in tools that were not necessarily vetted. They were not necessarily researched, but they were tools that we thought we could use because we really needed to teach a particular standard or a particular concept. And it was very frustrating because it wasn't accomplishing that. So when these programs came to us, that's something that intrigued me as a teacher. It was something that I was able to look at and say, that would have been something I would have used in addition to as a supplement to the curriculum. And that's what I was assuming, or that's what I was reading, I guess, when I read the superintendent's letter, that it's meant to be that supplement to. It's meant to help the teachers. Are there going to be a few teachers? Yeah, that probably misuse it. I think that's true of every curriculum that we've got, 3,000 teachers. So, you hope that everybody teaches it with as much integrity as they possibly can, but you know that there are sometimes people that may not go that direction. And I know that there are some that do not use it as much as they are technically supposed to use it. So I'm hesitant to say, okay, let's dump it. Let's not spend that money right now, because I know that there are some that do use it with vigor. They use it to help their kids. I am totally in agreement with you that any information like this that comes in the future, yes, let's have a word, let's bring it into the workshop the month in advance and say, this is coming down the pike. This is the time now. But in addition to having that contract come in, please bring other resources. Give us some other options. Are there other options? Why are we using this option versus that option? And that truly was, I mean, that is exactly the intent. When we get a new curriculum, that is exactly what happens. We get all of the different options that are supported by the state. And here again, it has to be supported by the state for us to purchase anything. And we also get the information that we ask for from the teachers who teach that particular subject. So when we select a new curriculum, we have, as a board, that has been vetted in so many different areas before it comes to us, that when we're making an educated decision, it's based on the education that people have brought to us. I guess, and here, as I said, for that reason, I don't feel comfortable saying, yeah, you know, it's an expensive program, and okay, you've talked to a bunch of teachers and said, yeah, it's not, may not be worth it. But I know, having talked to some teachers also, I know that it is used appropriately, and it is used to help students. And many of these students may not like it necessarily, but when they see that improvement, when they see that additional information, there are a lot of articles that are very good and achieve, from what I've understood as well. So that's my take on it.
Ms. Clark?
I would just like to add, I haven't been in the classroom as a paid teacher, but I have taught. And I tend to wonder, well, first of all, I'll say I've had 4 eye surgeries this year, and a lot of that has to do with screen time. And I see it coming with our children, and it scares me when I see a cell phone put in front of an infant. And I would like just to have more time to hear from the teachers and know how many are really using it and feel that it's a good choice and what are our options. So at this point, I'm really uncomfortable with voting for it. I know that we are about to open school, and I hate to leave people in a lurch, but I wonder what we did before technology. And we still had a very wide variety of students in a classroom, those that could get up and teach, and those that needed help every single day. So what did we do? You know, there's got to be an answer.
Can I just address a comment that Ms. Bola made? I was a flag football coach. Go in there, you write everything up on the board. This is the play. I need you to, you know, you go here. I need you to block right. I need the running back to go through, cut left. You go through all this, and the kids are like, yeah, we got it, coach, we got it, coach. And you take them out to the field. What happens? I mean,
I used to coach basketball.
This
I know exactly what you're
this
saying.
is my point. These people, textbook people, are in the business of making money. It's a multi-billion-dollar organization. They're in the business. That's what they do. Do you think they're going to sell you something saying, hey, about 60% of our kids hate it? No, they're not. Point of fact, if we are going to talk about the correlation of technology and learning, I went through today, my old principal, Dr. McDonald, will tell you I'm some kind of weird data freak, okay? But I went through today and I looked at age groups, group 3 through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 10. And this is food for thought, regardless of how we vote. But I can tell you, I have more faith in our teachers than to think they need 3 to 4 articles a month to save them. I just do. In 2015, age 3 to 5 in ELA scored 58%. In 2023, you can get it on the webpage. It's interactive. You can just pull it up. Grade 3 through 5 scored 58%. Lord, We haven't gone up. Grades 6 through 8 in 2015, I was teaching English back then. It's pretty easy for me to remember these days. 59%. Grades 6 through 8 combined, and I have to use apples to apples, right? So we have to use the same grade comparisons. So in 2015, 6 through 8 were 59. In 2023, 6 through 8 average 54. Grades 9 through 10 in 2015, 57% could read on grade level. And in 2023, according to the state website, 55% can read on grade level. I'm here to tell you that it is either an accident that the correlation of technology and the skills of a master teacher collapsing at the same time because they don't have to. I told a friend of mine today, I put the kids on Achieve on a Friday one day when I was sick. I was just like, please go do Achieve. I don't think I can make it through the day. But that's not what it's for, is it? It's not what it's for. I am comfortable saving our county $618,000 because our teachers can do it and our department heads can handle those that don't. There are master teachers been teaching 20 years. I right now could pull out 40 lessons that could be used over the next 40 weeks. So, now, I'm sorry, you didn't get a chance to speak, Ms. Gilhausen.
No, that's okay. Ms. Skipper, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I do actually. I'll be pretty brief because I feel like Ms. Hanson and Ms. Clark touched on all of this. I can't help but to sit there and think about, I believe it was Ms. Chapman and public comment who talked about engagement and technology. One of the things that I felt so passionate about, while running was that there's too much technology that is being utilized in our classroom, and there's less engagement, less hands-on. And I can tell you right now, I have a 5-year-old that I'm helping learn to read, and we are in it. And I can promise you that I use zero technology to teach her the basic fundamentals of reading and engaging her to read. So I do believe that we need to take a step back from all of the technology and all the screen time and all of the things being thrown at our kids. And, I know myself and Michelle, or Ms. Hanson had talked about early literacy a lot in our planning with the superintendent. And I know there was a variety of different ideas that we gave. I encouraged additional support staff within our early K through 3 grades so that the teacher had time to do actually do small group exercises how they are intended to be. Because I know we do small group, but there's like 15 in that group. That's not small to me. So my point being, I agree with Ms. Hanson and Ms. Clark that we either need to think this over and ask our teachers and staff exactly what they would prefer. I know we as board members have talked to these individuals a lot, which is, again, like I said, with coming forward with the superintendent, giving them ideas and input on what they feel. So whether we hold off or whether we don't do it at all.
Thank you, Ms. Skipper. Ms. Bola.
I was just going to ask, is it possible to put this on next month's agenda? Can we wait a month via the well, just a minute, and what I'm hearing Ms. Clark say and all of us have said, any more information from teachers, any more information from anybody who uses Achieve 3000, positive or negative. The other side of it is, and let me finish my thought. I'm looking at, we're talking about screen time. And it would be good to have some information as to what screen time is being done right now, what in the classroom, talking from kindergarten all the way through high school. You know, how much screen time are we talking about to make a decision like this, to understand the impact? Is there really an impact of the screen time, or is there other screen time that's being used? I'm thinking testing, I'm thinking.
We also have Lexia in ELA. You're supposed to use that to catch up deficits, small group deficits. That could also be used other than having, I mean, they do, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Superintendent, iReady in math, PINDA in science, Lexia in English. There's other things too. I mean, if I could go to the screen, I could tell you, we have a lot of technology resources, absolutely a fistful, that if we're worried about using this one program, then let the science teachers take them into PINDA, because it's another technology program that works with them on their reading. So
It sounds like to me Achieve 3000 accomplishes scaffolding of instruction so that we can discuss the same material at a very low level, at a very high level, and have everybody in the classroom be doing the same thing at the same time, is what I'm understanding, right? So, right. So it would seem to me that a one-for-one swap would be another database of articles. And, you know, to your point of screen time, I'm not a fan of children being on screens unless it's absolutely necessary for state testing. So I think something that we could look at is having a county database of articles, suggested articles that are in alignment with our curriculum maps that teachers can print and distribute.
we used to.
You know, I'm not in favor of withholding resources from teachers by any stretch. However, I do think that the increase of screen time is detrimental to children. It's been documented, researched. That's not questionable. So I think having an opportunity for the district to look into a different way of accomplishing the same goal would be beneficial if we give it a month. And it's not necessarily that we're asking for this item to come back in a month, but that we're asking for how are we going to meet this need? Is it going to be Achieve 3000? Is there going to be another option?
I'm pretty sure teachers can tell you what they'd like to do.
Well, and I think another thing to consider, you know, you suggested you don't know what the screen time looks like in a classroom, and that is 100% accurate. And are we comfortable with that as a school board? Is that something that we think we need to discuss? You know, what is an appropriate amount of time for children to be on a screen in a classroom in Clay County schools? That's not a conversation that we've had. We've talked about cell phones. We've talked about, you know, technology use in the classroom as it pertains to our student code of conduct. But as it pertains to curriculum, that's not something that we've discussed. And I think that that's a very important thing that we need to take up and to understand how it's being used right now. If there's not a policy, then it would be our instructional
Because
division.
in addition, you know, the textbooks we have a ton of resources, technology, labs for science. I mean, it's all online now too. You know, the textbooks are online. If you're absent, you read online. They do stuff in Google Classroom. We can't just look at it as resources. But back to the original topic. If there's something better, it's not us that should decide, first of all. I have not been in the classroom in a year and a half. I don't think that I would be the expert. I know reading teachers have been doing that for 30 years who could probably tell you everything they'd like to see. My point is spending $618,000 on another technology that is being used 3 times a month, 3 to 4 times a month, comes to 1 week of school, classroom time. That's what I'm here to talk about. And if we just bring it to a vote, a win or lose, I can be done with it. But that's my best effort, because you have to spearhead something at some time. You can't just keep kicking it down the road or rubber stamping it and saying we should, we should, we should. At some point, we make a change, and you know what happens with change? The gap fills up. It's like putting your hand in a bucket of water. Pull it out, guess what happens? Fills back up. But if we just continue to do the same things over and over, there will not be opportunity to make change.
That is correct, Ms. Hanson.
Well, I think what I'm hearing from the board, there is a majority who are concerned with this item. And I think on top of that, there's the issue of screen time. And I think it would be beneficial to have this discussion next month at the workshop. But but I think
Stop.
I think that there's just a lot of information that I need about what else is out there, and if we were to use Achieve 3000, I would like to hear a more prescripted direction from our instructional division through our curriculum maps, through our curriculum coaches, as to how this is being used in the classroom, and if it's being used inappropriately, that needs to be corrected. But to your point, Ms. Bola, anything that we were to adopt could be used incorrectly. So I think that there's a lot to consider, and I don't want to leave a gap. But at the same time, I also don't want to provide a crutch.
That's called the hard decisions you got to make. It's a yes or no situation. It's not a middle of the road.
And I don't feel comfortable making, I don't feel comfortable making yes or no decision at this time.
I do, you don't. It's okay.
No,
That's
with
why we're.
with more information. I mean, I know that
I brought it to discussion I was hoping people would do some thorough research
I
on it, which is
have.
why I brought it to discussion.
And what I learned was that it is being used in an appropriate way, in appropriate ways in schools, and that it's very helpful, and that it's worth the money, basically. And that's why I'm saying I would like to be able to do more of that in more than just the week that we had. You've had the experience of actually teaching.
I mean, I
it.
actually have.
Not, Ms. Clark has not, and Ms.
Everybody I
Skipper
know
not.
has, yeah.
Well, I understand that, but I don't feel comfortable making the decision at this time.
Well, right now we have a motion. So,
You also have a second.
and we also have a second, so we can take action on this item unless there's another motion. Hearing none.
I think the appropriate thing, if I may interject, would be to withdraw the second, withdraw the motion, and then make a motion to delay action until next month, rather than to take a vote on it and vote it down. That the appropriate things, based on what you've said in your discussion, is you need more information.
Well, it
And
sounds
to
like I
delay
have,
action would
I
be
have
it.
one board
I
member
don't
that
think
wants to
they-
vote,
Right.
and I have,
I think you have more than one that want to vote.
so let me just get
What? Can we just
clarification.
go through and ask each of us what we want to do, if we want to vote or wait?
Ms. Skipper, would you like to move forward at this time, or would you prefer that we take this up again?
I can vote.
Ms. Clark, would you like to vote at this time, or would you like to?
My concern is being able to gather enough information within the month.
Mhm.
You know, we either, it's a tough decision.
May I
Ms.
ask one
Bola.
other quick question regarding the contract with Achieve 3000? We've had this for 6 years, 7 years. And in that 7 years, if we were to choose, and just reading the audience here, or reading the dais, if we were to vote this down, that would then cancel the contract with Achieve 3000. If we were to find that there was a need to replace it with, and frankly, I'm
They're
not
going to be
certain
okay with
what-
or without it.
I'm-
We have great teachers.
I'm not, well, I understand that. I'm not disregarding our teachers. I'm asking for a tool that, what I have learned, is very helpful to a lot of our teachers. So, and yeah, I know there are going to be teachers who are going to be doing cartwheels because we vote something down or vote something up. But if that is a tool, I know our curriculum specialists would then find something to help replace it.
It's not that
Going
hard.
back to, please, let me just get a point across, that we could go to. I'm at a loss, because I'm concerned that there are people who use Achieve 3000 appropriately, with vigor. They use it to get the information that they need for these children and to these children. So just wondering what happens if we do cancel it.
So yeah, I think you're correct in the sense there are teachers that probably use it correctly. Miss Hanson described how she used it correctly, and there are other teachers that use it correctly. Are there some teachers that maybe don't use it as correct? Of course, that would make sense to me. Regardless, that would be common sense. As far as the contract goes, the contract would end and sever the relationship. Could you renegotiate another contract if necessary? I would presume so, right? They want your business, so that would be an option if we got to that point. I think the larger question that I hear from the board is they would like some information on screen time of all programs. And we can certainly provide that information so you have a basis of what's actually happening. And not just anecdotal information from a few people, but actual information related to the overall use of the program and how it fits in. So, whatever the board decides, it's clear tonight the board would like more information on this topic. That's what I got out of the discussion.
So my other concern with Achieve is there's so much scrutiny and so much required from the state at this point about what kids are reading. And I'm concerned about the ability for parents to see every article that's in that database. And then how much are we limiting? Do teachers have access to every article?
They do have a filtering tool to prevent articles of a certain nature to come through. That's a new feature of the program as a reaction to what's happening now in the world.
I guess I'm mostly concerned with the fact that we don't know how much people use technology. That our county, we do not know. And I know it is used a lot. But we don't have an idea. We don't have protocols or procedures saying, English should use it 1 hour Monday. iReady shouldn't be done every day. I mean, what do we have?
We do, and I would make the suggestion that at a board workshop, we unveil all that information and provide more education to you related to the topic, how each program's used, the frequency for each, all of that stuff.
But you know how much time kids are on the screen?
Yeah,
every kid in the county.
Well, I can't tell you
We
every
have a
specific,
schedule.
but there'll be a schedule, yeah. There'll be an overview of how the program is used.
I think it's information the
can I say
board doesn't
something?
have because we've not requested it. It's not something that's been presented to us, but it doesn't mean that the information isn't there. So I think it's valuable that we know those things. And then if, we need to take action as a board, if we feel it's appropriate, we can at that point. But I think I heard Ms. Skipper. Go ahead, Ms. Skipper.
I just wanted to talk on the filtering the reading and the articles and whatnot. So from what I understand from talking to a couple of teachers, that can be very difficult, and a lot of them don't understand how to, and it had taken them a long time to figure that out as well. So they go in, from my understanding, it's what's essentially recommended, and they pull from that. And so, unless they're actively reading it, to Ms. Gilhousen's point, we have no idea what's being put in front of our students, essentially.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it fits with the same requirements that we're putting on classroom libraries. I mean, if they have to publish every single book that's in a classroom library, but and honestly, it's more restrictive on curriculum, and this would be considered curriculum. So I have some hesitation on that. So if currently the motion is to approve this item, and there's a second for that. So if we want more time, there needs to be a withdrawal of that motion in favor of tabling this item. Otherwise, we'll just vote on this as it stands. Do I have a amendment, or are we moving forward?
It's up to you.
Okay. Was there further discussion? No? Okay. So the current motion is to approve this item. So you're voting either yay to approve this item or no to not approve this item. Okay? So I had a motion from Ms. Bola and a second from Ms. Clark. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Ms. Skipper, I didn't hear you. Were you silent?
I was silent.
Okay. All opposed say no. No.
No.
No.
No.
Okay, motion fails 1-4. All right, our next item is a public hearing as advertised.
Never mind.
Public hearing as advertised for 95-acre land purchase located at 2770 Russell Road. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. If anybody would like to speak, you can approach the dais. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for a motion.
There's
Oh,
no motion. The
okay.
way
I'm
that this
sorry, I see
came
the
up
note, no
is,
vote required.
in the past, it would have been coupled with the resolution. The resolution came to the board last month.
Right.
There's a breakdown in the way things were done because no one has done this in probably 8 years, and the turnover has been such that the sequence of things that people did was lost and is being recreated.
Okay.
Mr. Addison is the third person that's been in this seat since I've been back. And so that's why it is a standalone item rather than with the resolution.
Okay, all right. So then at this time, we will move towards the school board attorney remarks.
I just want to say I look forward to working with each of y'all, and our firm is excited about addressing this. We appreciate y'all's public service. So we will be scheduling some meetings of one-on-one with each of y'all, and I look forward to sitting down with each of y'all. Mrs. Skipper as well, who's here remotely, and we'll sit down and we'll talk, and I look forward to serving y'all's needs. So, thank you.
Can we get your number ASAP?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
All right, school board member remarks. Anybody want to begin? Go ahead, Ms. Hanson.
It was really great, the Clay County Foundation with Ms. Bola today, watching lots of first-year teachers that I think were like 15 years old. In my mind, they look very, very young, very exuberant about starting and really excited about getting some pencils and paper towels, huh? Yeah. The other comment I have is about this packet. I, in fact, didn't know anything about this litigation, and I know we can't talk about it. I am at least versed enough to know that we cannot talk about litigation in the open. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if you can have a stay. I really don't know anything about it. And so I would like to ask the attorney what can be done until the board can be apprised of what's going on.
The litigation is ongoing and is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Okay? What you've been told tonight is not true. When this was initially reported, I went out to the school and spoke with the principal, the assistant principal, the guidance counselor, the mental health counselor, and went through all of the details of everything that occurred. I found no fault that I could find anybody did anything wrong. I then took Ms. Troutman, and she and I both went back out and sat down and spoke in detail with the guidance counselor. Okay? We spent over almost 2 hours with the guidance counselor going over every detail of what was done. I still could not find anything wrong, nor could Ms. Troutman find anything wrong. Within a week, the Department of Education called and said, "We've heard a rumor that there's something going on and that this occurred, and we want to know what's going on." I explained everything I knew to the DOE. They then decided that they're going to investigate this individual. Ms. Troutman called and said, "On what basis are you investigating our person when we found absolutely no evidence of wrongdoing?" They said, "Well, we heard a rumor." And so that's where this all started. When they filed their lawsuit, I sent a copy of the complaint to everyone, and I told everyone that I could not discuss this on the board floor and would not discuss it on the board floor because of the nature and circumstances of all of the press that was looking at this and calling and trying to get information, and we would not answer. Mr. Brodsky was fully aware of it. At the time, Terry Dennis, who was the chief of staff, was fully aware of it. We then retained outside counsel because a civil rights litigation, although I'm qualified to do them, would eat my day. It takes all the time away from everything because that's all you think about. When I looked at that civil rights litigation complaint, I then looked around and I found a complaint in Tallahassee. And then I found another complaint in Massachusetts. All are filed by the same law group. Liberty University's School of Law has sent some group of lawyers about to file lawsuits, basically with all of the same allegations, saying that the schools are trying to teach children to be transgender or gay, and they're not. I could find nothing to that. And so I'm not going to listen to this group of rabble out here that
So
are talking.
Mr. Bickner.
This is
and Ms.
actually in the
Hanson.
court system. We don't need to talk about it.
Correct. I think
The
I think the
reason-
best
My
way to
major
handle this,
concern is
Mr.
why
Bickner-
I know nothing about it.
Because you
until
haven't
I get
called
the-
me and asked me anything about
Well,
it.
how could I ask you if I didn't know anything about
Okay.
it, Mr.
I've
Bickner?
sent everything out
All
to
right, we
everyone
just
I
need
have.
to, listen,
Mr.
new
Bickner,
school board
Ms.
members
Hanson,
could have
can
been
I-
brought
Can
up
I
to speed.
interject, please?
Yes, please
Thank you.
do.
I think we would all appreciate an update on the current situation, but let's do it in a shade session.
Okay, now, as I wanted to explain, I can't talk to you off the record in the sun, in the shade. It's got to either be done on the board floor, or it's got to be done by email. Everything that I send out is public record. Everything I say is public record. There are only two circumstances where I can have a shade meeting with the board to explain litigation, okay? And that's by statute. One said settlement negotiations, and that's not where this is. We're not going to settle this case unless something changes radically, or strategy sessions related to litigation expenditures. And there's nothing to talk about. It's being handled absolutely correctly. Mr. Brodsky is absolutely aware of everything that's gone on. And for someone to come in here because they've decided they're on the side of the plaintiff and say that it's being handled incorrectly is wrong. It's being done
That's not actually what
correctly.
I was not concerned with that, Mr. Bickner. I was concerned that I knew nothing about it, and I've been on the board for 8 months. So I'd really like to redirect to the part that I believe that board members should know the information of litigation we have entered into, regardless of whether what you're saying is true or not true. It is in the court system. The courts will decide what they're going to do, right? The courts will decide.
That's correct.
It's just the fact that to find out that we're actually in litigation about something that I actually know something about, but thought it was taken care of already because I hadn't heard from it, it bothers me that that lack of communication occurred and that we didn't even know about the case.
When it was filed, the complaint
Because
was
when
sent
it's
to
filed
every
as a
sitting
school
board
board, that's
member.
me.
It was sent to every sitting board member.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Hanson, anything further? Okay. Ms. Clark?
I just need to read a very brief something that I wrote. I want to apologize to board member Erin Skipper for our last workshop meeting and how she was treated. I'm not going to get into the weeds of the details. One of the reasons I ran for the school board was due to the unprofessional manner of the past board and how they treated one another. The citizens of Clay County deserve better. I think it's great that we have a member willing to bring ideas to the board rather than just sit and rubber stamp everything that comes to us. In fact, that may be why she was voted in. Bottom line is, Ms. Skipper knows the children actually are a priority. So if she wants us to review any issue, even if our security, she has the right to ask for it to be on the agenda. If there are no issues, that will be discovered. If there are, then we must address them. I also must apologize to Charles Douglas with the Douglas Law Firm, the school board's new law firm. He sat through the entire workshop and witnessed the disregard for our rules and disrespect for others. Mr. Douglas, that is not how we will conduct business in the future. For the record, I know both the district and the sheriff's office are currently exchanging information. It takes time to get the full details. I would suggest the months of August, September, and October, that's 90 days, be our discovery and discussion period with multiple workshops pertaining to the district police, and the Clay County Sheriff's Office. That's plenty of time for reviewing this very important issue, placing on the agenda and advertising for a vote at the November 2nd school board meeting. Madam Chair, what do we need to do now to get it on the November 2nd agenda?
Well, I think really what we're waiting on is the sheriff's information. She was the one who had asked for at least 45 days when I spoke with her to get information together to meet with us and answer any questions that we have and kind of offer a proposal.
And I think she needs information from us before she
Correct.
can provide
Exactly.
that.
Right.
So that's why I think the 90 days is
Sure.
reasonable.
I think that's reasonable. Mr. Broski, are you?
So the only deadline that I would put is that a decision must be made by December, because at that point we start to budget and allocate for the next year. So as long as a decision's made by December, we're in good shape contractually and all of those other things that I worry about. So
Okay.
we're in good shape even if it wasn't November, if it was December, because nothing would happen until the following year anyway, because they have to transition. So that's the safe timeline. I would say December would be the hard deadline.
All right.
So can we do November 2nd?
Yeah.
And then if we have to, that we can.
As long as we have all the information from the sheriff, I mean, I assume that the district's ready. You guys have what you need. Okay.
And the district moving forward and helping with that, whatever that she needs.
Mr. Broski says yes. Yeah, talking to your microphone. Anything further, Ms. Clark? All right, so we'll plan to take that up for a vote in November, pending the sheriff's information coming forward. Ms. Skipper, did you have anything?
I have a few things, actually. I know we can't really talk about litigation like Ms. Hanson said, but I mean, that struck a chord for me, hearing from one of our constituents and members of Clay County. And I'll tell you, especially since I ran on parental rights, and by God, I'll fight for that till the end. So I just want to say that with our new board attorney present, I would like a rundown and if you can, whatever it is by law, from your viewpoint. I know that sitting board members receive that information, which was not to new board members. So that I just want to correct that as well. And as having our new board attorney, I would also like to ask if we could look at that parental rights policy that was passed towards the end of last year to make sure that we are and aligned with law and with the law and parental rights. And if we can do better, we need to do better on that. So if that could be, something that us board members look at very soon, maybe even the next workshop, or if we don't even need a workshop, if he can do it, by himself and bring it to the board.
Ms. Skipper, I'm not following. Which parental rights policy are you talking about?
The parental rights policy, the one that we had for an emergency, I can't remember the numbers, but one of the constituents spoke about it as well tonight. So I just wanted to see about
Okay.
to see the number.
They're
It's the
nodding that
one
they know the one you're
the
asking for.
The
Okay.
parental right policy that we approved at the end of last year for an emergency meeting.
Okay.
That specific one. I know back then as a candidate, I had issues with one of the lines because I felt personally that it did not align properly with our laws. But I'm not a lawyer, and I just want to make sure that we don't have loose language. And if, like I said, if we can do better, then let's do better on that. For a positive note, I want to talk about this past month, I was able to take part in the transportation rollout, which or training, like Mr. Broski spoke about. I was very impressed that we are fully staffed. I was very impressed at the training that they have brought back from Texas for our staff members. It's very new, it's very innovative. I love new ideas. I love new viewpoints. I believe that they are running a spectacular department, and what is most encouraging about that is it's a positive place to work. And the individuals I spoke to, both upper staff and everyday bus drivers, have spoke nothing but good things about how they've been treated and the direction that it's headed, especially coming from the difficult issues they've had. I also want to thank all the individuals who came tonight to speak. You know, we emphasize that students are what this is all about, and for you to come and voice your concerns and your viewpoint as a parent, as a concerned citizen, means a lot. I can't speak for anyone else, but I can tell you that it's not a one-size-fits-all, and us parents know that so well. So let's not let anyone say that we're taking the focus off of our students when coming to vent about an issue. We hear you loud and clear. I also want to state one small little thing, and I'll be done. I want you all to know that I will continue to hold myself accountable to those who elected me to speak on their behalf. I will always strive to do what is right by our students, parents, and staff. I may be a little fiery at times, which we all know, but I will always be professional, making sure I have all the information to make sound decisions for our constituents and districts. Thank you to the many of those who have reached out, and I ask that you continue to reach out, because we are going to change things for the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Skipper. Ms. Bola?
Having gone to the transportation training as well as the tools for schools, I think one of the key words, and I think Ms. Skipper, you went into this in saying that our bus drivers are happy to be working here. And Ms. Gilhausen, you mentioned it as well. And in talking with the teachers today as they came through the tools for schools and just stepping in and the appreciation that they have for their jobs and the pride they have in their jobs is huge. And they're looking forward to the school year. They're looking forward to a very positive experience this year. And that was, it fills our buckets. I have to say though, walking through that smoky bus and trying to find the 4 children, stuffed animals, was truly an experience that I hope nobody ever has to do in real life. But they are prepared, and they know exactly what to do in case of any danger. So thank you for all of the training that you have done with them. It's very much appreciated. Had the opportunity, unfortunately, I missed the ribbon cutting at Spring Park Elementary, and had the opportunity to go and see the owls and everything that's being set up for the new school, and it was absolutely beautiful. Ms. Outman was a little bit concerned about some of the pictures. She was like, don't take the pictures yet because all of the painting's not done yet, and this isn't done yet, and that's not done. And they will have it ready. They will have it ready for the first day of school, and it is difficult to always meet the needs of every parent in our community. And it was witnessed there in the front lobby when a parent came in and said, I want my child to be able to attend school here. And Ms. Outman talked to them about where they lived, and unfortunately they didn't live in that particular neighborhood or in that particular district. And Ms. Outman very tactfully had to say no. And as a school board member, we wanted to do whatever we can to make our parents happy, to make our children happy. And it brought it home that there are times when we do have to say no. There are times when it's not always going to come about to be the best answer for everyone, but we will do our best. and that's the bottom line. We will do our best. I think that that is it. I just want to wish all of our teachers welcome back. It is, summer went by in a blink because we're here again. And next week students start and it's going to be a fantastic school year. One other quick point, Ms. Skipper, you had mentioned at the last meeting that you may have known a citizen who would be on the Value Adjustment Board.
We've already taken care of that. I spoke to Miss Bonnie.
And that person's not available, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, because I spoke with Mr. Wiggins today, who is willing to be on the Value Adjustment Board again as our representative. So
I had that
wanted
on
to
my
throw
list
that
to
out.
talk about, so thank you for
Awesome. Thank
beating
you.
me to it.
Hey, Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I just say one quick thing?
Yeah.
I forgot, and I am so sorry because I was
No, go right
very,
ahead. Go right ahead.
very, very touched by it. Thank you, Ms. Clark, very much for your kind words. I do greatly appreciate that.
Well, they were needed. So thank you.
All right. So for me, I had the Value Adjustment Board item to take up, but that's been taken care of. I did want to address, there was a constituent that mentioned the security changes. I just wanted to be clear, I didn't direct the security changes. I was informed that we were making, the district police were making changes to bring us in alignment with the safety practices of other local government entities. So that was not my decision. And then I wanted to see if there was board consensus. We had the appeals for the challenges come to us last month's meeting, I believe. And it was pulled prior to the meeting. We do need to take up that item, but it would be my preference that we revisit our policy before we take up the appeals. So in light of having a new attorney on board, I wanted to garner the majority if we're all interested in reviewing that policy with the new attorney.
I actually spoke to Roger Daly about that today.
Fantastic.
And that was, he needs to be involved, and so I
That
think
that
that's a
was my
great-
next point
Yep.
was, Mr. Daly has referenced several times that he had the group of community stakeholders that came in from all walks of life, all different points of view, and they all were able to agree on a set of standards that they felt like were appropriate. And as a board member, I would love to see them because I have not yet.
Yep.
So I would like to consider those as we look at this policy again. So Mr. Daly, if you wouldn't mind providing that to the board. And then I guess once we have that, we can look at the policy in light of those community standards, if everybody's in favor of that.
Yeah. In addition, there's a lot of this type of thing going on, maneuvering around this
the
type
state.
of policy. And with some research, some people have done a lot of work ahead of us that we might be able to lend some experience into our policy if we look around.
Absolutely. And I had a conversation with our new attorney prior to the meeting, and he alluded to the same thing, that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot that's been done around the state. Some of this is obviously still trial and error because it's a new law. But I think that we owe it to the people who are making these decisions to give some very clear guidelines.
And in that same vein, making certain that when we look at the policy, we consider all of our elementary school classrooms and classroom libraries, because I'm hearing and getting lots of requests about, what are we supposed to do with all of these books that we can't use? And today particularly spoke with lots of teachers who are coming through who have books that are very appropriate for the classroom, but unfortunately, based on our policy, they're not able to use them. And I've been encouraging people, do not give them away. Do not, because this entire issue isn't over. And I think that there should be more opportunity for some of these books to be maintained in the classrooms.
Okay, so that gives you a lot to chew on. So we'll look to hear from you about our parental rights policy and our library and media resources policy as well. All right, I want to wish everybody the best school year that they've had so far. I know we're all sad to see summer go so fast, but I'm excited for all that this school year holds for our teachers and most importantly for our kids. With that, this school board meeting is adjourned.